better. So this is going to be a two-part video series, and what we're going to be doing is looking at cherry picking. And there's two styles of cherry picking, and that is the aggressive and the conservative. And that's what we're going to be looking at and why we're taking two videos to do it. So in this video, we will look at the aggressive style, and then in the next video we'll look at the conservative style. And what we will do is we will go through the same set of data on both and look at how they vary, how they change. All right, so that is it. Let's do it. To it. All right, let's go back. We'll go back, say, I don't know if we'll have time for 3 days. We'll go back here to, let's get our crosshairs up here. There we go. All right, so this is February 13th. Let's go back one more day. Actually, let's go back a couple more days, because I don't know how much time we'll have and how many days we'll get through here. Let's just make sure we have enough days and we get full days of trading and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so now we're going back to February 11th. So that's on a Tuesday. All right, and what I needed to actually do was do the global crosshairs here, and then the global crosshairs here, and of course it changed it now after all of that. All right. 7th, 12th, almost there, 11th. All right, there we go. So, cherry picking, just as a quick reminder, what we're doing is, well, there's three and a half styles of trading that I teach. Scalping essentially is looking for setups on the short-term chart. In this case, it'd be the 300-tick chart. Confirmation on the 900-tick chart. Cherry picking, we're looking for setups on the medium-term chart. That's what cherry picking is. So each style is defined as which chart interval you are looking for the setup. And we always assume that we've got three charts available for us, three time frames available for us: short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Even though here we're not looking at the long-term, and that's because we're doing the aggressive cherry picking, and that's what it is. In the aggressive cherry picking, we are looking for setups on the medium term, in this case the 900-tick chart to the medium. We're not even looking at the long-term chart, which would be an 1800-tick chart, or I'm sorry, 2700-tick chart, because 9 times 3, we multiply times 3 to get the next higher time frame. But we're not looking at that, but we still know that that's a possible chart to include. And so anyway, you look for the setup on the 900-tick chart and the trigger on the short-term chart, 300-tick chart here. The conservative cherry picking, the difference is that we are including the 2700-tick chart, and we're still looking for setups on the medium-term chart, but then we're using the 2700-tick chart as the confirmation. So with aggressive cherry picking, you don't have a confirmation chart. With conservative cherry picking, you do have a confirmation chart, which is why it's more conservative. Okay? And a lot of times I get asked, well, why even do an aggressive cherry picking? Why not always have the confirmation chart? And the bottom line reason is because you don't get as many setups. Okay, so let's do it here. So the market opens 6:30 California time. Okay, we are already into, let's see what time that was. Okay, we're already into an extended trend here again. Remember, we're looking at the 900-tick chart for our setups. We've had a wave 7 here. So, and yes, we do include pre and post market data in our trend count, our wave count. And with tick charts, we include pre-market and post-market data on our charts. On time-based charts, I don't, but on tick charts, I do. All right, so let's see where our first setup after 6:30 would be. That's not really a trade setup, because you might say, oh, well, isn't that a first cycle high after DAT turns down? No, we've already had the first cycle high after DAT turn down, which was over here. And that would have been a valid trade, but it happened at 5:48, so about 45 minutes before the market actually opened. Can you take it? You can. You can do pre-market data. I mean, you can do pre-market trading with tick charts. You can. That's allowable. But for most people, they don't recommend it, so we're going to just go with that and not entertain that trade. All right, now here's where our trend ends. Is right here. Now what I'm pointing at is the 900 tick chart. When I get the global crosshairs, in fact, let me just take them off for a second, because when I do, it's distracting. You're not sure necessarily which chart I'm pointing at, but I'm pointing at the 900 tick chart. Now, let's see. All right, so that would... Nope, that's really nothing. Nothing there. Okay, so the trend goes away. Now we can start a new trend count. This would be a first retrace in the trend, and it would be a first cycle after dad turns up. So the setup is there. Sometimes people get confused between a setup and a trade, a possible trade. But the problem is we don't have K going down to 20, so therefore even the setup is there. By the time you actually get your trigger and everything's looking good, yeah, it's just not, everything's too late. Timing doesn't line up. All right, so we'll pass on that one. Here we get a second retrace in the trend. Now, K does get down below 20, so that's good. Let's look for our alignment of our charts. Okay, now see, there you go. Now we've got an alignment of the chart. So this trade we could take. This is a second retrace in the trend, wave 4. And so now we've got one of the things, by the way, that makes aggressive cherry picking a little stronger, and why we don't always say you have to trade conservative where you have the confirmation chart, is because with with conservative cherry picking, you're always getting concurrent cycle lows, and concurrent cycle lows adds to the probability of the trade. So you're always getting that with this style, and that's great because that's what has to happen. You have to have a cycle low trigger when you have a cycle low on the medium-term chart. We need to have at least K hooking up on the medium-term chart, our confirmation or our setup chart. In this case, it's even better because you've got KD and MOM all angling up on the trigger chart, the short-term chart, and you've got an engulfing candlestick, and you've got a mini divergence over there. So that's a very high probability cycle low. That's great. The other things we would look for are our KD and MOM angling up on the medium-term chart. We don't need all three, but if they are angling up, that's higher probability. In this case, we do definitely have K and D. MOM, technically we do, but it's kind of flat, so it's negligible. And then finally, another thing that's very important to look for is, do you have concurrent setups? We have concurrent cycle lows always, but do we have concurrent setups? Well, in this case, no. What that would mean is, obviously, we're going to have a setup on the medium-term chart, but do we also have a setup to take a trade on the short-term chart? In this case, no, we do not, because it's just a wave 1 in a downtrend. And by the way, it's not an official downtrend, but the 50 MA is clearly angling down, so our indication is that it's a downtrend. And that's what I mean by that, but I speak shorthand. So that's a legitimate trade. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and we'll put little, what should we do? We could do arrows. Let's see what our triangle looks like here. Oh, cool. Okay, that's pretty cool, huh? All right, so we'll put a little triangle there. We'll come back and reference these points later. Alrighty, now the next opportunity, we've got another cycle low here. This is an ABC complex retrace. Again, it's a valid trade. So yeah, we'll put a little triangle here too. Cool. I'm not necessarily putting it on the bar. I'm just putting it there so we can reference it later. Okay, so what is this trade? Well, based on the medium-term chart, it's still a second retrace in the trend. But if this one doesn't work, or if we didn't take it, or we missed it for some reason, it's an A, B, C complex retrace. It's a triangle trade. Let me take this off of here and just show you the triangle, because I know people have a hard time seeing these triangles sometimes. Lower high, higher low. So it's a contraction pattern, then we look for expansion out of that. Okay? So that's what this trade would be. And again, the cycle indicator gets all the way down, so that's great. Put our global crosshairs on again. Oh, what happened? Oh, I took it off of here. All right, then now, do we get a trade here? No, we're in an extended trend now, so we're not going to take that anymore. Only time we would take it, well, there's a couple instances. One would be a reload pattern, for example. Nothing here. Okay, now we get a, whoops, get our charts aligned here. There we go. Now, here we have a nice setup. It's basically just a trend reversal trade with a 7-wave extended wave count. Again, concurrent cycle highs. We've got a mini divergence on the short-term chart. KD mommingly down in the short term. K and mommingly down on the medium term. So, yep, that definitely is a possible trade. So again, I'm just going to kind of put it off to the side here. Get our arrow, okay. Again, it's not right on the bar. I'm just putting the mark on there. All right, now I don't even know if this trade worked out. No, it did not. It did not. But that's okay, because we would have been able to at least, we'd get our first half off, and it actually moved down quite a bit. That half cycle going down was actually quite a good half down cycle. So we'd get off half of our profits at least, and then, or half of our position. Okay, again, another trade. Wave 5, concurrent cycle highs, of course. On the short term, KD mommingling down. On the long term, well, actually, if we took it, depends which bar. If you took it on, you could get this right at this bar. If you do, just K and D are turning down. If you wait for one more bar, you get KD mommingling down. On the long term, we got K and mommingling down. Okay, so we'll mark that one. Let's see, where's our triangle? I'm not used to drawing these triangles. Okay, again, just marking our spots. Okay, so now we're going short an extended trend on wave 9. If this does not work out, we're done with extended wave counts. So that does work. And in fact, that's the end of the day. So that's cool. We actually get all the way down there, and that worked out nicely. Okay. Next day, our first trade here. Looks like it's a first retrace in the trend. K gets close to 20. Doesn't quite get there again. We do, for advanced traders, have some ways you can trade those. I don't know, should we count that one here or not? I guess we won't, because it's not close to 20, even though the trade would have been okay. Nothing really here. Nothing really here. That's your first retrace after the crow. Well, actually, we got a rubber band trade here. Yeah, we got a rubber band trade there. Let's look at that real quick. So, oops, too far. Okay, so the rubber band trade would be there. Not too bad. I mean, you're just trading it back to the 50 MA. We'll mark it. I wouldn't expect too much out of it just because. Hold on here. Again, it's just a reversion to the mean trade, but high probability cycle low. That's the nice thing, right? Because we've got a triple cross down here in the 300 tick chart, and we've got a mini divergence on the long-term chart. So super high probability cycle low. Also on the longer-term chart, you've got a reload pattern, 5-wave down on mom. It's just that, again, well, our first target is actually the 15 EMA. Just not a lot of room for profits there. Okay, this is a good example of what happens a lot. Look at this. Let's do it this way here. Let me see if I can find the low of that bar. It's kind of hard to tell, but anyway, clearly what does happen is it goes up, comes down, stop runs this low, and then goes up. Okay, so next question would be then, do we get a trade on that stop run? Not really. Because K on the longer term chart doesn't get down to 20 again. And so, even though it's still a rubber band trade, nope. Alright, we've already had a couple of those, so now we got an expanding triangle over here in the 900 tick chart. See that? Higher high, lower low. So I put this together for you, make it a little more obvious. Expanding triangle. So these are tricky. That's why we just had some tricky stuff happen here. These expanding triangles, I'm not too crazy about them. There's ways to trade them, but they're not my favorite pattern by any stretch of the imagination. So let's go to our next more reliable pattern. Okay, now here we go. This is obviously a first retrace in the trend. Go to our short-term chart, see if we get a good entry. Oh yeah, we get a great, oh, this is a good one. Now, what do we got? Look at this. Obviously, concurrent cycle highs, as we always will. First retrace in a trend, which is always a good one. Engulfing candlestick, well, might not see that right then. But here's the point. We've got KD mommingly down on the long term, or the medium term, KD mommingly down on the short term, triple cross on the short term, on the stochastic indicator. So again, very high probability cycle high. And that's what you need. How far these things are going to go, we're never quite sure. But we want to at least get a half cycle out of it so that we can get out of half of our position. Then, if we take a loss on the rest of the position, we're only taking a loss on half of the size. Half the contracts, half the shares, half the lots. So that minimizes our loss much bigger. Plus, that's offset a bit, in some degree, by the amount of money that we made on the first target. Okay, so here we got a engulfing candlestick pattern on the short term, a triple cross, etc., etc. Concurrent cycle highs as usual. Do we have concurrent setups? No. We have to have a setup on the medium term chart, the 900 tick chart, of course, because that's what the cherry picking trade is all about, or setup, or style. But we were shorting a wave 1 in an uptrend on the 300 tick chart, so therefore there's no setup there. That's not a trade we would take normally. But since we're not using that as our setup chart, and just as purely a trigger, then we just evaluate how good is that trigger. In this case, the trigger is great because, again, engulfing candlestick, KD mommingly down, all three of them, triple cross on stochastic, so a great trigger. Okay, oh my gosh, wow, way over time. I get lost in all of these. Okay, so let me mark this one, and then we will come back and we will do our next video. And I think I'll do a few more of these, and then we'll look at these same spots, but with the aggressive, or I'm sorry, with the conservative cherry picking.